We're going to move on to something that is not a ballot issue, but is important to, very important to Ann Arbor, and that is that the Ann Arbor Police Dispatch is to be consolidated by contract with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office Emergency Dispatch. And a quick background, this has really been happening over the course of 2 years, when at first there was co-location of Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County. They were in the same space in Ann Arbor, but they were separate. And at the time, according to reporting by Dave Askins of the Ann Arbor Chronicle, Police Chief Jones was pleased with the co-location and expected it to lead to consolidation of operations as an effort to regionalize services. So indeed, it is expected that by February of 12, that this merger will be in operation. And just briefly, do you think that because Governor Snyder is replacing statutory revenue sharing with incentive for consolidation, you know, as part of best practices, do you think that this influences this merger at all, or consolidation might be better?
I'm sure that that is driving at least part of it, but the justification is, of course, that it's going to save money and you're supposed to get better services. And I still think that I tend to not like these things that, oh, this is getting bigger will save money, and it becomes a religion. You never, you know, look at it and analyze it. It might and it might not. You know, you need to do your due diligence and look at and see if it's really going to save money.
Right. So it has been put out there as saving $400,000
Yes.
for the police department, which is really from the general fund, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So, but you know, once again, the Chronicle reminds us that the police made cuts this year to save $1 million, cut 6, and next fiscal year, 2013, they're going to have to cut another $1 million. So even if they save $400,000, they're still going to be short. And furthermore, more cuts are expected in the ensuing years. So would you like us to look at some of these charts that you've done your research on? And we have calendar year 2010 and the cost per calls.
What I did is I did a Freedom of Information request to get some documents, and there were certain things presented to council. And the first set of charts we're going to see, they did a cost per call, and Ann Arbor was close to $40 per 911 call that came in, and the county was about 16. And so you think, oh my God, the county is doing it so much more efficiently,
right,
so that we'll save all this money. Now, if there's that much difference, you should be saving more than $400,000 because
well, they're
the budget's
cutting
about
4 people. I mean, you know, that's what they're attributing the savings to.
Well.
And so should we look at your next one?
The next chart, what you can see is the cost between the county and city is roughly equal. The difference is the city has fewer calls. So the city has about 1/3 of the total calls and the county has 2/3, but the costs between them are roughly the same.
That's for June
that's
through
this
May.
chart. Yeah,
yes.
so that's calendar year 2010.
Right.
Then, so that was what was publicly presented. But when
Right.
I got the Freedom of Information material, there was another chart in there
Yes.
that had quite different results.
Right.
And that was June 1, 2010 through May 31, 2011. So that's it was probably the most recent 12-month period. And there, the calls are virtually dead on. I think they're 31 cents apart. So then when you look at the calls, again, the calls break down roughly the same way the total dollar expenses do. So I'm, said, well, something's wrong. And the meetings, there were meetings that they held, and from the minutes and the emails, it was clear they were trying to keep this secret. And I always get on keep the fact these discussions were going on secret. Yes.
Right. We just didn't hear when Police Chief Jones was so pleased in 9, right?
Yeah, well, they did, when they put them together, I think at the beginning of 2010.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything on the city site, but the county talked about the reason is being shared, like the switches apparently are quite expensive.
Yes.
So they said, well, look, we can share the cost of
Economies
this
of scale,
multi-$100,000
Yes.
switch.
So now, calendar year 2010, the number of calls and cost? Should we look
Let
at
me
that
see.
one?
I think we've gone through, we've done we did the
Okay.
2011. So we basically got one set of numbers that says the cost per 9/11 call is the same, and another one that says the county is
Yes.
paying a lot more. And I think what's going on, when they co-located, they started taking each other's calls. And because the county has more 9/11 calls
Yes.
than the city, but the staffing was the same, the city was picking up a lot more of the county calls than the other way around. And there's no reimbursement for that.
Right.
So I think that second chart, they were trying to figure out what the real cost was.
Yes.
And if you kind of back into what the total cost is going to be, the county says we'll do it for $1.5 million. And if you look at the number of calls, that comes out pretty close to this $27 a call that
Right.
that I think is the real cost, which makes me think they're not going to save money because the county's a lot more efficient.
Okay, they are not going to save money.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, they're not, because of the county. The only way you can save money is that they're planning on replacing some of the dispatchers with part-time people. They're part-time
Yes.
people that get no benefits, no health insurance, no
Correct.
vacation, no sick time.
21 dispatchers apparently is what we have, and they'll only need maybe 15, and as you say, if they're hired back, they can be hired for part-time, so they won't be part of the union anymore.
That's right.
And they won't have those benefits, and they won't have their seniority. So that in itself, will that be a savings?
There'll be a savings, although, again, a lot of that is longer term
Yes.
because, yeah, new people coming on won't have the benefits, but you're still going to, I mean, neither your health care plan or your pension is fully funded.
Right.
So you're still going to have to be putting in money for those dispatchers that are going to go to the county or just going to, lose their employment. They're all vested. And all that's going to do is take the cost and spread it over other areas of the police department.
Okay. And what about, they're saying that there's a choice. Either we move the dispatchers and keep, patrol police, or we keep the dispatchers and we do you think that there's really this trade-off? That's what is being depicted, that this is your choice.
Well, you're assuming that the trade-off has to be in the police department. I hope that after this next election, there'll be enough people on council that can force the city administrator to do an alternative budget to say, I want to see a budget where there are no more cuts to police and fire. And let's start looking at the city attorney's office, who hasn't lost any people. And I mean, we keep planners on when there's no work. I mean, there's other areas, HR, I mean, there's other areas that you can cut. And I mean, there's been much bigger declines in the police and fire staffing than there has in the other areas. Well, if the police and fire can get along with less, so can the city attorney. I mean, our city attorney we spend about double on our city attorney than the county does, and they do equivalent things. So again, this is the council majority. I mean, if you've been watching this, you know that there's a split on council, even though it's all Democrat. But the council majority, that's their priority.
Right.
They'll take it out of police and fire before they will the administration.
So you're doubting, just to close this out, so you're doubting that the consolidation will really save money or jobs?
I think that the numbers are all over the place. I don't trust the numbers. Apparently, sometimes they didn't even use real numbers.
Right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, and I want to thank you, Karen, for sharing your research and your analysis. It's been enlightening. And I want to thank you for watching. Send us your comments and your suggestions. You know, we always welcome other perspectives. Until we see you next time, thank you for watching.